Hello and welcome to another episode of Pixel Narratives with ANUTOSH. Our guest today is Dr. Asha Kuthari Chaudhuri. She is a professor in English of Gauhati University and had also been the chair. She is an amazing personality, not that she's just a teacher teaching in the university the English language. She is also into theatre and a lot of other wonderful things that she has been doing all over the years. It's a pleasure to invite Dr. Asha Kuthari to a episode of Pixel Narratives with Anutosh in our studios of AFTA. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, Anutosh. Thank you so much for having me. I was looking at all the paintings around
Oh,
in
yeah.
your studio, and I was like, we were having this conversation. I actually discovered a painting that your father had done,
Yes.
which I sort of found in my in-laws' place. So
Okay.
that was wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, it was a surprise for me that it was actually with you
Yeah, yeah,
and your
yeah,
family.
yeah,
I was wondering who had this painting. Haralimuk, I knew that,
yeah.
and then it had gone through a lot of
Restoration and things.
restoration
Yeah.
and things like that, and I think that is probably the only monochrome painting ever done by my father, mother,
Okay.
and child. Monochrome, so just a bluish tone, and for me it is really so nostalgic when I invite guests who are connected to me through my childhood days. You were also the student of the same school where I had been, in Nichols. And that really gives me a wonderful feeling that, see, from a very small town school, people have gone to such greater heights. You are one of them. And I'm really honored that you have been my guest for Pixel Narrative.
Thank you so much. I mean, I've just done things that I've loved doing.
Yes.
That's it.
And when I started this podcast after my retirement, I was thinking what would be the theme. And the theme was that we must connect our generation, the present generation, and to things that people have done with so much resistance, so much social taboos, and they have made a mark of them. And you are such an example. Coming from a background, uh, people who are very, very conservative, you have okay, you have been a master's of English, you have done your studies. That's a different thing. But then you moved into theater. And at that time, how difficult was it?
Oh, it was sort of unexpected. You see, what happened was like you said, I come from a very orthodox, earlier orthodox. They're no longer that
Yeah.
orthodox. But you see, what happens was my family was the first Marwari family to come to Assam.
Oh,
Literally then, and we sort of trace it back to the late 1800s.
hmm,
Okay, so although there are a little debates as to who actually came here,
okay, okay,
our family home in Gwalpara is it dates back to 1810.
okay.
The Guwahati house dates back to 1828.
Hmm.
All right. So now, strangely enough, the second family that landed up here in Assam was none other than that of Jyoti Prasad.
Hmm.
Okay, and
Right.
if we look at the very interesting difference in our kind of the trajectory that our families took, one completely assimilated and
Hmm.
became icons for Assamese culture,
Right.
but we absolutely didn't. We remained in trade, we remained business people, and we
Hmm.
remained really not assimilated into the larger Assamese society. I think I was the first person who actually, in 200 years, actually went out and married somebody who was from Assam.
Okay.
All right. So, and that is where I suppose, if one wants to track how my life has been and how I identify myself as, I'd always say that I would be identifying myself as an Assamese.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know.
actually, so like even my family, when my grandfather started working as a revenue treasurer in the Gauhati Deputy Commissioner's office, and that was in 18, end of 18. And then he was the first person to write a book in as Bangla on Srimanta Shankardev.
Mhm.
So, and then my father, his legacy. And I also feel, very happy to introduce myself as an Assamese because even though the culture doesn't have much difference, and since I was born and brought up in this part, so I have most of my friends are Assamese people, and I love to introduce myself as an Assamese, and that's what. And when did you first think that I will move to theatre?
You asked me that question earlier as well. Um, So you see what happened. I was in Handy Girls College
Mhm.
because my family was conservative. We were, they
You had
didn't
to go
want
to a
to.
girls'
They didn't
college.
want me to send, go to Cotton College, and so
Okay.
I was in Handy Girls College, and I was, I chose to do English literature because I absolutely loved reading. I loved literature. Discovered Shakespeare then properly, and then we said, okay, what's the point of just reading drama? Let's do it
Yeah, and
so yeah,
when it is
for the
Shakespeare, it's all
varsity week. So
dramas.
I said, okay, everybody's doing drama,
Uh-huh.
theater,
Mhm.
but they're all in Assamese. Let's do the original Shakespeare. So we said, okay,
Right.
let's do the Merchant of Venice, and that was a prescribed text for us. So I said, okay, let's do it. A bunch of us girls, we decided we're going to do it. So we rehearsed, we uh, invited our teachers to see what we had thought of. And we were actually, because our teachers probably, we all do, If you ask me today, let us do a Shakespeare publicly, I'm going to be very, very scared to do it.
And what happened when you
So
first went home and said that I'm doing a theatre?
no, it just sort of happened organically. They never said anything.
They
They
did
said,
not say
okay,
no.
fine, no. Because
Okay.
it was a girls' college. We were
Okay.
all girls there. Okay. So that was the next step. So we went ahead and we finally did the play.
Okay.
A
The
one
stage
act,
drama.
only
Ah.
one act from the act 4, scene 1 of Merchant of Venice, the courtroom scene. And that, I think, got me hooked.
Okay.
That was the first thing that we did. And then, of course, we formed the Shakespeare Society. We started off with, again, the Merchant of Venice in the full play. We made our headquarters in Cotton College, which meant that I was now no longer all the time in Handy. I was mostly after class hours, I'd be in Cotton.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, I think my family really got upset because I was coming home every day at 8 after rehearsals, because classes and then rehearsals, and then we would go off for a publicity drive and or to collect money,
Okay. Okay.
advertisements, etc. We were trying to get hold of. I think at that point of time, we actually, and I'm saying this with a great deal of pride. Babi Barua was our mentor at that time, and RC sir from Cotton College. We also had Aditi ma'am from Handy, who was helping out for various things in the play. But then once the Shakespeare Society was formed, and we put up the plays, and these were ticketed shows,
Okay.
okay, which is very rare even now. Ticketed shows, and we managed to make, I think, if I remember correctly, it was around 25,000 rupees
Those days.
in 1988.
That's a big achievement, I should say.
Yeah.
And
So
apart from your the profession as a teacher of English, you are also a Fulbright Nehru scholar.
yeah.
Now, I am sure my viewers would be interested to know your experience being a Fulbright scholar.
Okay.
Share
Uh,
in a very nutshell, if you can share.
Yeah. So actually, one of the reasons why I really had never actually visited New York was because one, apart from London, New York is the city where you have the most theater happening in the world. You know, if you want to see one play every day for the entire year, you can, and there's more left over.
Right.
So I had decided I'm not going to visit New York or America for that matter because my thesis specialization was
American.
American drama.
Okay.
So I said, no, I'm not just going to go and be a tourist there. So when the Fulbright thing popped up one day, I said, okay, let me apply because then I can actually go, stay there for 4 to 9 months, and then uh, simply immerse myself in
And
theater.
and that's how you visited the Columbia University, the San
Yeah,
Diego University,
yeah,
and the Virginia University,
yeah,
delivering a
yeah.
lot
These
of
were all
talks and
invited talks.
invited talks,
Yeah,
and that was part of the fellowship. I
yeah,
mean, that was
yeah.
part of
There's
it.
an outreach
Right.
features.
And you are a frequent, you travel abroad, delivering lectures in the World Theatre, events of World Theatre. You are a SMUTS visiting fellow
Yeah, I finished that last year.
at the Cambridge University.
Yeah,
And you have also been addressing at the Royal Academy of Dramatic
yeah, art,
Art, RADA.
RADA. That happened very interestingly because my son,
Yeah.
he was very lucky to actually crack the entrance test for RADA, and he happens to be the first Assamese person to get into the Royal Academy of
Oh,
Dramatic Art.
wow. That's it.
So that is how I sort of began to interact with the faculty there because I had gone for his convocation, and then we got into further deeper conversations with his teachers. And Ian, who was their master's course leader, he actually asked me if I would be interested in giving a talk to the RADA students, the MA lab, on Indian drama, which
Okay.
is really my area of specialization.
And apart from theatre, you have also started working with the film
Oh, yes.
media.
Oh, yes. I think that's almost organic, although the media is completely different.
Yeah, usually a theatre
Uh,
personality, we see them moving from stage to the
Screen,
screen.
yeah. But if you think of it in terms of literary narratives that we actually connect to, drama, theater sort of is the connect. But with films, we assume usually that the novel is a closer
Okay.
affiliation with the film. But that's, I suppose, just it depending on the fact that you can actually review it, fast forward it.
Right,
You
right,
you literally eat the same carrot twice, but if you're thinking of drama, you're always thinking of
right.
immediacy.
So, this question must have been asked several times to several people. Which is more difficult, the stage or the screen,
In terms of what? Acting?
in terms of acting and production and everything? The
I
final output.
I suppose you can't really compare these two things, because once you're on stage, and if I'm going to quote my son now, because
Yeah.
he's done both films and theater on a professional level, you know, it's an interesting observation. He says, if you want to ask me as an actor, which is more thrilling, he's always going to choose theater.
Yeah. You are directly connected with
Yes,
the audience.
you are vibing, and I've been on stage, so
You miss your lines, you had it.
yeah, but then
There's
you
no
can
retake.
no, but you can always
Improvise.
improvise. So
Yes, that is,
improvisation comes in.
but
So you're
that is at a
constantly
very professional level. You improvise. Suppose your line is
so you
somewhere
have
and
to
you
know
move to
you
somewhere
have to
else,
know your text
and then come back,
properly.
and I have to come back again to the
Yeah,
main
yeah, yeah.
thing, and that's really very interesting. And people,
So
we have
actors,
seen most people from they have moved from stage to screen.
yeah,
Very few people have come back from screen to stage.
Nasir
Very
has.
few. Very few.
Nasir Bhai has.
Nasir, you was doing stage that time. Ratna Pathak was still doing stage and film regularly, on and off. They were doing it. So now coming to the school education. As per the new education policy, the NCERT has come up with the textbook for arts. I had been part of that publication and of the CAG, and it has come out so wonderfully. People have thought that arts should be treated music, visual arts, songs, and that is drama and the theatre. So four things combined in one. How do you think? How do people implement this in the school level?
Um, I think this is something that we've all been talking about for the
Yeah.
last 2, 3 years now, ever since the draft policy
Yes.
came out.
Yes.
I've also been part of many workshops and where we've tried to brainstorm on this whole idea.
Exactly.
How do we implement it?
Yeah.
You see, I think one of the base problems with at least with the performing arts and with arts in general, हमारा जो बोलते हैं, I'm switching to Hindi because साहित्य अकेडमी है, वो आपका लिटरेचर का है.
Okay.
आपके पास यू हैव द ललित कला एकेडमी विच इज फॉर फाइन आर्ट एंड यू हैव संगीत नाटक एकेडमी
music.
फॉर म्यूजिक एंड डांस एंड थिएटर. सो ये तीन चीज़ें जब आपके साथ हैं, और आई देयर इज अ पर्पस टू मी स्विचिंग टू हिंदी राइट नाउ because our pedagogies for these arts are entirely different from Western pedagogies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we know, and as an artist yourself, you also know how, it took some doing to actually come back to our roots with Jamini Roy and other people, from moving to the West
Right.
via Ravi Verma, and then you come back. So even in pedagogy, I think that same thing where we have to make these two poles meet somehow. तो ये जब होगा तब हमारा आई थिंक वो जो पद्धति जो हम सोच रहे हैं वो असल मायने में कामयाब होगा.
And after all, at the school level, when we were handling the children, these visual art, performing arts, or the theatre, dance, they're all medium of expression for the child. A child may be good in visual art, a child may not be good in dance. So he gets an opportunity to experience these performing arts or all the other arts. But what problem it is coming up, which I am feeling, is that our schools are not yet ready for implementing.
No.
Because you need a fine arts teacher, you need a music teacher, you need a dance teacher, also you need a theatre person. Unless our schools have all this.
No,
How
that's what we're looking at, a big paradigm
Yeah,
shift.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's not as if this thing is not there at all. If you look at schools like, say, Assam Valley School, okay, they've been
Yes.
ranked the best public school for extracurricular activities.
Right, right.
Okay, and they have dedicated teachers
teachers
for
who-
all these
Yeah,
branches.
but
So it's possible. And if you can pay a geography teacher to teach geography, I don't see why you cannot pay an art teacher to teach art.
Exactly. And-
It's just a mind block because we still stay in the trifecta: arts,
Yeah.
science, and commerce.
Yes.
This is the trifecta.
Because
isn't it?
our goal is either you be an engineer or a doctor, or but arts
Baki-
have never
baki-
been a priority,
Yeah.
neither for the parents,
Yeah.
neither for the school. But now, because of the NAP, things have to change.
Oh, I know, and this is the opportunity. I've been
Yes,
saying this
yes.
everywhere. In fact, I even went to our education department and begged them to give us faculty in the Gauhati University because we started a center for performing art.
Right.
In 2 years ago, I was the director for the Center for Performing Art at Gauhati University. And I actually managed to start the skill courses in acting
Oh.
and a minor in Khotriya, a minor in acting, and another in films.
Exactly. Our chairperson for arts was Shankar Madhav. And the couple of online meetings that we have with him, he was always stressing that बच्चों को फोटोग्राफी सिखाइए, बच्चों को वीडियोग्राफी सिखाइए, क्योंकि आगे चल के उनको यही करना है. Because connect them to something of this time. Don't teach them
Absolutely.
something which is 20 years, century back. Okay, people should know about it, but then let them do something, and at least they can get, something like the skill development kind of a thing.
No, I told
So
you we
photography,
started skill.
visual,
My idea was कि they are not going to fund us otherwise.
right.
If you put in the skill idea, they're going to fund us. Because see, acting is a skill.
Yes,
It is a skill.
right.
So I said, and you see, there is a whole entertainment industry which can absorb the people you have trained, right? So I don't see where the problem is in terms of giving, jobs and employment and other things. They'll get absorbed automatically, organically. So, but we still are, after 2 years now, I'm very happy to say that Gauhati University is going to really start off the 5-year
Wonderful.
integrated masters in
That's
performing arts with 2 subjects, with Potria
okay.
and with theatre.
And also, I think you should include visual arts also
No,
into it.
that we are planning that in a big way. So
Because
and for that matter, I would like to appreciate that Professor Nani Gopal Mohanto himself is extremely interested in the arts,
okay.
and he's been really really proactive with
Yes,
this.
and like all the other universities, now it is a multidisciplinary kind of thing. So within the Gauhati University, we have this visual arts and other everything. I think the children will be very, very,
Oh, you should see how many takers that are
yes,
there.
yes.
So, see, when we started the skill course, it was just 15 people who had applied the
Okay,
first round.
okay.
The second round, it went to 30. The third year semester, the enrollment went up to 80.
Okay,
And we don't have space, okay? Because theatre involves body work,
right,
right? You have to do physical work
right,
with the
right.
actor's body. You need a space. You
Right.
need proper teachers. Now, how do you ask a professional actor, teacher, to come and teach your students if you're not giving them a
Space.
modicum of space and honorarium, which is it's
Yes,
almost not there.
yes.
So these are constraints, and I think we are trying to work our way around it. Hopefully, something will emerge.
So, just going through your elaborate achievements, I would say, the kind of work that you have done, what else is left?
I haven't finished everything.
No, what do you think that, I just missed out, I should do it?
No, I think one thing I need to do is really. I was telling you about how I started off and how I got hooked to theatre. So when I started doing my masters, I said, okay, I need to focus on my academic career now. So acting and theatre really, me being on stage, it took a backstage. Yeah, although I was still doing some television work. Um, so I said, okay, let me just focus on academics. And obviously, what would I choose to do work with except, but theatre. So I did theatre as an academic discipline.
And since you are in the Department of English,
We
Shakespeare
have
will never
drama.
leave you back.
No, I don't want
And
to leave
Shakespeare
them.
will always be
I
there,
don't want to
and
leave
you
them
would always go to your class asking them, talking to them
always
about
knew.
theatre.
Yeah, Shakespeare's always new. You see, that's the whole point about academics. Every semester students will change, but your subject stays the same.
And you start improvising,
But
you
it's
do
different
different way.
also.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
yes.
almost like theatre. It's a
Right,
performance in
right,
itself.
right, right.
Yeah. So now the other thing that you asked, and I haven't finished with that, about what I want to do.
Yes.
So maybe I've been thinking that I want to do two things. I want to go back to the stage and direct a play
Oh,
at one
wow.
point of time, and maybe also because I also have studied and have been very involved with the process of filmmaking. And filmmaking now, of course, is super easy because
Yeah, you
the
just
kind of
need a.
smartphones that you have. But I do perhaps maybe to add to the body of whatever work that I want to do, I do want to make a film as well. I don't know. This is all very fragmentary.
And
Somewhere in the future, hopefully.
people say a writer writes 3 novels, a theatre person has 3 plays, but a filmmaker makes one film, which is a super flop, but he's still popular.
I don't know about that.
Because film is such a medium. Even, see, there are so many incidents where we would have seen that there is a filmmaker, he must have made only one film in his entire life, but people know him. Just,
But there's such eminently forgettable work as well. ये भी है
I don't
कि
want to
हर कुछ
mention
अच्छा
them.
I'm not mentioning any names.
But then they have done
हर कुछ
very
अच्छा
little
है.
work. They have done very little
There are
work.
also people like giants, I would say.
Yes.
People like Ritik Ghotok,
Huh.
who who have sort of been on this sort of sidelines. Of course, film scholars have studied him all the
Without
time.
studying Ritik Ghatak, Mrinal Sen,
Yeah,
Satyajit
but
Ray. Well,
look at the way somehow or the other, it is always Rai that dominates, isn't it? So that part aside, I mean, we have to think about, how whatever we do, if it resonates with a certain audience for a certain period of time, and if it resonates truly, and the connections are made, what more do you need? I mean, that one connection, I think that is what you're talking about.
yes. So it was really such wonderful, talking to Dr. Asha Kuthari, and I am sure my viewers must have got a little bit about her journey, the way she started and what she is today. If you have the passion in you, I'm sure you can reach to a greater heights in your life.
But that's what I tell my students all the time. I mean, ad nauseum. It's like do what you love, and then
Right.
the work that you do won't even be work. It's just something that you enjoy doing all the time.
So, on that note, like to thank Dr. Asha Kuthari for giving us this wonderful moment, being a part of my podcast, Pixel Narratives with Anutosh. In our next episode, we'll be again talking to another achiever who has a wonderful journey to share with our new viewers, the new generation. On that note, we end our episode today. Do take care. Thank you.
Thank you.